She cleaned houses with bleeding hands just so her daughter would have something to eat. She created it alone, without anyone's help. But when she got older, her daughter was ashamed of her, and he decided to pretend that his own mother was dead. This story will revolt you, it will make you cry, and maybe make you rethink what gratitude is. If you believe that a mother's love cannot be exchanged for status, watch until the end. The ending will leave you speechless. The year was 1988. Maria Aparecida was only 22 when she discovered she was pregnant. She worked as a cleaning assistant at a public hospital in the interior of Minas Gerais, earning minimum wage. She lived in a small room in the back of a rented house, with no furniture, no luxuries, and no one around. The child's father, an older man with beautiful promises and an empty heart, he disappeared as soon as he learned of the pregnancy. He blocked her, ignored her, disappeared. Maria was left alone, with the world crashing down on her shoulders, but she decided to go on not out of courage, but out of love. Even though she was afraid, even though she didn't know how she would pay for milk or diapers, she chose to be a mother. The 9 months of pregnancy were spent amid cramps, hunger, and double shifts. Mornings at the hospital, evenings cleaning the neighborhood school. All to prepare for the arrival of the daughter she already called my miracle. Ana Clara was born on a cold dawn, with complications during the birth, and Maria had no one to hold her hand. No flowers, no visitors, no father, just her, the child, and a void in her chest that only grew. When she held her daughter for the first time, she cried silently, not out of fear, but out of the certainty that she would give her 11 if she had nothing. And it did. Maria Aparecida was mother, father, support, shield, and rock. She learned to cook baby food from market scraps, sewed clothes from old cloth, and invented toys from cardboard. Boxers. She did everything with love. While other women her age dated, traveled, and built their lives, Maria lived for her daughter. She worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs, to ensure she had everything she needed. She never complained, even when her body ached. Or when Anna got sick and had to ask neighbors for a ride because she didn't even have money for the bus. There were nights when Maria slept sitting up because her daughter had a fever and she needed to hold her. There were days when she didn't eat to make sure Anna had bread and a glass of milk. But no one saw, no one knew. She smiled in the hospital, treating patients as if life were easy. But inside, she was a mixture of exhaustion and fear. Resignations piled up. She turned down a technical course because she had no one to leave Anna with. She stopped going to a better job interview because her daughter had a bout of bronchitis, and yet, she had no regrets. "She's all I have," she always said. Her daughter grew up healthy. She attended public school, but always clean-combed, with a snack in her backpack and a smile on her face, all thanks to her mother. At 10 years old, Ana Clara was intelligent, curious, and dreamed of becoming a dentist. Maria did everything she could to fulfill that dream. Even with tight finances, she saved to pay for courses, books, and occasional internet access, all so her daughter could have the future she never had. For birthdays, she made simple cakes, but filled with love. There were never any parties with a buffet or expensive gifts, but there was presence, there was love, there were real hugs. Maria attended every school meeting and insisted on attending performances. Even if she had to leave work early and receive a penalty, Anna on stage would seek her mother's eyes and their smiles would meet. But as Anna entered adolescence, something began to change. Her schoolmates laughed at her simple attire. They commented that she was the cleaner's daughter. Maria humbly said that work didn't define her, but Anna began to feel ashamed. She stopped letting her mother pick her up from school. She hid the fact that they lived in a simple house. He was beginning to notice the shame in his daughter's eyes, even if she didn't say it. Anna began to lie. She said her father was a businessman, that her mother was sick and retired. She created a parallel reality to fit in. Maria pretended not to notice. He remained supportive, smiling, caring. Even when his daughter began to distance herself, responding coldly, treating her as an obligation and not as the woman who gave her life. When Anna accepted a partial scholarship to a private college, it was a mixture of joy and pain. Joy for seeing her grow. Pain because, To pay the remaining tuition and expenses, Maria had to sell her gold ring and the new stove she had so painstakingly purchased. But she didn't hesitate. She deserves it, she repeated to herself. Anna moved to another city, and contact began to dwindle. Calls became shorter and shorter. Visits became rarer and rarer. Always busy, always short on time. Deep down, Maria knew her daughter was building a life where she didn't fit. The confirmation came at a Christmas lunch. Anna showed up with her boyfriend, a rich, arrogant young man who barely greeted his mother-in-law during the meal. He made jokes about poor neighborhoods, criticized people without ambition, and never once looked Maria in the eye. And the worst part, Anna didn't defend her mother. She laughed along. She pretended Maria was just an acquaintance, a maid, perhaps. It was on that day that Maria understood. The daughter she had raised alone, with so much sacrifice, was now ashamed of her origins. But still, she smiled. She washed the lunch dishes herself. And she said goodbye to her daughter with a big hug, her last in a long time. In the following years, Maria grew older. Her hair turned white, her hands scarred. She continued working as best she could, now as a seamstress. Her daughter's calls were limited to special occasions, and even then, they were brief. No questions about her health or how she was doing. The neighborhood noticed that girl will regret it, ... double quotes, they said. Maria just smiled, as if she were used to the absence. But inside, the heart was bleeding. Time passed. Anna graduated, became a dentist, opened a practice, and got married. All without inviting her mother. Maria heard the news from others. Photos on social media showed trips, parties, dinners with her husband's family, but she was never there. And then came the worst. One day, Maria tried to make an appointment at her daughter's office, using a false name. She just wanted to see her, hear her voice, and catch up. But when she got there, she heard something from the secretary that made her freeze. Dr. Anna lost her mother when she was a child. She was raised by another family. It destroyed her. The daughter had erased her existence, creating a story in which Maria Aparecida never existed. Sitting alone at home, looking at a box of old photos and clippings from school reports, Maria cried for the first time in years, not from sadness, but from disbelief. She had been buried alive by her own daughter. And there, something changed. Not in her essence, which remained good, strong, loving, but in her hope. She realized she was alone, that she could no longer expect anything from anyone. But fate still had plans, and karma was already waking up. Time is relentless. For those who love it, brings longing. For those who are forgotten, it brings pain. Ever since that day in the office, when she heard from the secretary that Anna's mother had died, Maria was never the same. She spent weeks in silence, locked inside the house with the curtains drawn, refusing visitors and ignoring the phone. Her daughter's photos, once proudly displayed around the house, were now tucked into a shoebox, along with her mementos. Each portrait was a knife, the image of a girl she had painstakingly raised, now transformed into a woman who wished she were dead. As hurt as she was, a part of Maria still sought explanations. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe Anna had told this story simply out of embarrassment. Maybe. But the answer came in an even more cruel way. A few weeks after her office visit, Maria decided to send her daughter a letter. A simple, carefully written letter in which she said she missed her, that she wanted to see her, talk to her, just look into her eyes and understand. She ended the letter with a heartbreaking sentence: "If I'm truly dead to you, let me know, so I can truly stop existing." She put the envelope in the mail. She waited days, weeks, nothing. Until, a month later, the letter returned, sealed, stamped with a warning, refused by recipient. There, the thread that held her to hope, finally broke. Maria continued to live with dignity, but her body was beginning to show signs of fatigue. Her blood pressure was high, her vision was failing, and her joints were aching. Even so, she continued sewing clothes for neighbors, selling homemade cakes, and doing her best to avoid depending on anyone. And yet, it was forgotten. The now successful daughter never offered help. She never asked if she needed anything. She didn't remember her birthday. Not even on Mother's Day did she call. The older neighbors who knew the whole story said angrily, "That girl will pay. Nobody can erase a mother like that." and get away with it. But Maria didn't wish ill. She wasn't made of resentment, just tiredness. One rainy Tuesday morning, as she was leaving to deliver a sewn dress, Maria slipped on the wet sidewalk. She landed awkwardly and broke her femur. She lay on the ground for hours, screaming for help, until a neighbor found her. She was taken by ambulance to the hospital, the same one where she had worked for so many years. On the stretcher, in excruciating pain, he looked up at the ceiling of the emergency room and murmured, "Where are you now, my daughter?" He had surgery and had pins inserted, but recovery would be slow. He would need care. He would need someone by his side. And that was when the cycle of abandonment was completed. Unable to afford a caregiver, without close family. And with her daughter absent, Maria was admitted to a public nursing home by the hospital's social worker, a cramped, musty-smelling place where the elderly are more numbers than people. On the admission form, they asked, "Do you have any close relatives?" She replied, "I do, but he buried me alive." He remained silent. He signed the papers and entered that house as if entering the dead end. At the nursing home, she shared a room with 3 other women. All of them had similar stories. Ungrateful children, distant families, forgotten lives. Maria was the quietest of them. She didn't complain, she didn't cry. She just looked out the window at the same time every day, as if she was waiting for someone, but nobody came. Months later, on a sunny Sunday, a young volunteer showed up at the nursing home. She was a journalism student and wanted to hear life stories for a college project. She sat next to Maria, who at first didn't want to speak, but the girl insisted sweetly, and little by little, Maria began to open her heart. She told everything about the pregnancy, the daughter, the abandonment, the pain. When she finished, the student had tears in her eyes. She said, "This needs to be told, the world needs to hear." Maria smiled for the first time in months. "If this serves to open the eyes of some ungrateful daughter, then tell me." The story was published anonymously on a student blog, but what no one expected was that it would spread. Within days, the story went viral. News sites shared it. People commented, outraged by what the woman had experienced. How could a daughter do this? They asked. And someone, somewhere, recognized the details. A former college classmate of Ana Clara saw the article and shared it with a comment. "This story reminds me of someone. Could it be? Soon?" The rumors reached the dentist's town, and finally, to her office. By this time, Ana Clara was already well established. She lived in a high-end home, drove a luxury car, and moved in elegant social circles. Her image was impeccable, a successful professional, friendly, and smiling. But when confronted by an acquaintance who asked if the story wasn't about her mother, Anna froze. She tried to deny it. She tried to say it was a coincidence, but panic was in her eyes. The husband, who until then knew little about his wife's past, read the article, and for the first time he asked, "Anna, you told me your mother died. Is that true?" She hesitated, and the silence answered for her. The facade began to crumble. Patients began canceling appointments. Comments on social media became frequent. "Are you that daughter who pretended her mother died?" The image of the perfect professional was now tarnished. And the worst part, she knew that all of this was just the beginning. In the nursing home, Maria was unaware of the hurricane her story had caused. She continued to live with dignity, even among cold walls and iron beds. But something had changed in the air. The world, which seemed to have forgotten about her, was now paying attention. And destiny, which seemed to have fallen silent, began to respond. Karma does not forget, he just waits for the right time. Ana Clara always believed her life was a solid construction, made of perfect choices, calculated decisions, and well-maintained appearances. Every detail of her image had been meticulously crafted. The modern office, the dental clinic with impeccable white furniture, the Instagram account full of motivational quotes and practiced smiles. But there was a crack. And this crack, ignored for years, now exposed a truth she'd tried to bury: her mother's existence. Not just her existence, but her abandonment, her betrayal, her cruelty. In the first few days after the story went viral, Anna tried to carry on with her life as if nothing had happened. She entered her office with her head held high, smiled at her patients, and avoided social media. But the town was too small, and the internet was too unforgiving. Anonymous comments started popping up on her photos. And your mother? Have you visited the nursing home? Aren't you ashamed? All this here is just a facade. Patients began canceling appointments, business partnerships evaporated, even colleagues began to distance themselves, fearing negative exposure, and worst of all, she couldn't erase history. There was no delete button for the past. Anna's husband, Marcelo, was a calm and discreet man, but he wasn't blind. After days of silence, he confronted her directly with a printed article in hand. Anna, is this real? She stood in the middle of the room, paralyzed, as if the paper were a gun pointed at her chest. She tried to laugh it off, to downplay it. It's just cheap sensationalism. There are thousands of stories like this on the internet. Any similarity is coincidental. But Marcelo wasn't convinced. He'd known her for years, but he'd never met her mother. And now, I was beginning to understand why. Tell me the truth. Did you lie to me? Is your mother alive? Anna felt the world spin. For the first time, the lies told years ago came back like loud, deafening echoes. She sat on the sofa, and after a long silence, she confessed she was poor. Marcelo, poor little thing. She lived in a terrible neighborhood. She worked as a cleaning lady. She made me feel ashamed. I wanted a better life. I didn't want to be labeled the maid's daughter. He listened in silence. Her every word was like a blade being slashed at his own reputation. Anna continued, when I started college, I realized no one would respect me if they knew where I came from. So, I told her she was dead. I cut off contact. I changed my number. I created a new identity. You killed your mother alive, just out of shame, he said, his voice breaking. She didn't answer. She just cried. And in that instant, what was between them began to crumble. Marcelo didn't speak to Anna again that day. The next morning, he did something she never expected. He looked for her mother. He wasn't sure how to find her, but it took a few searches and phone calls to find out the name of the nursing home. He called, confirmed she was there, and decided to go in person. When he arrived, he found a tired-eyed woman sitting by the window. Maria didn't know who he was, but she welcomed him kindly. Did you come to visit someone? I came to meet you, Mrs. Maria. I am your daughter's husband. Her eyes widened, then she smiled sadly. So she still lives. Marcelo spent over an hour with Maria. He heard her whole story, uncut, from her difficult childhood, the sleepless nights, her lies, to the day she was officially killed. He left there, in silence, with a heavy heart. And that same day, when he returned home, he looked Anna in the eyes and said, I met your mother today, and now, I really know you. Marcelo asked for time. He said he needed to think. Anna begged, cried, and tried to justify her choices. But he was firm. It wasn't about pride anymore. It was about principles. Meanwhile, social pressure was mounting. Anna received a call from the Regional Dental Council. An anonymous complaint had been filed against her for unethical conduct incompatible with the dignity of the profession. She didn't know what was worse, being judged by strangers, or by her own reflection in the mirror. With her husband away, the office emptying, and the comments intensifying, Anna finally began to feel what she had always avoided. Guilt. Not the superficial guilt that comes from public shame, but the deep guilt. The kind that burns in the stomach and keeps you awake at night. The kind that clearly shows how cruel someone can be. To the one who loved them most, he began to look through old photos. She remembered when Maria would bike her to school, even in the rain. She remembered the simple birthdays, the cakes made with rationed flour, the nights when her mother would come home exhausted and still help with her homework. What did I do? She whispered, alone in her room, hugging a pillow. A few days later, Anna went to the nursing home. He came in trembling. He was carrying flowers. His face was wet with tears. Maria was in the same place, near the window. When she saw her, she didn't say anything. She just looked at her. Anna knelt down. Mom, forgive me. The old lady was silent for what seemed like an eternity. Then she said, You didn't come to see me when I needed you most, but you came when you needed me. Now, the one who needs forgiveness is you. Anna didn't find the relief she expected. Maria didn't kick her out, but he didn't embrace her either. He said he forgave her, yes? But forgiveness doesn't Erase the consequences, the time you stole from me. No one can give it back. The loneliness I experienced, you will never understand. And now, everything you built on my absence is crumbling. This is karma. It's not punishment, it's payback. Anna left the nursing home feeling smaller than ever. And there, he understood something he never wanted to accept. Success built on the shame of others is just a sandcastle. While Maria returned to her serene silence, Anna faced the reality of emptiness. Her practice was about to close, her marriage was hanging by a thread, her reputation was destroyed, and even surrounded by material comfort, Anna felt the cold of loneliness. A cold that only those who reject their own blood know. Because pretending that mom died was easy, it was difficult. Living with it now that the whole world knew, Anna's return to the nursing home marked a watershed moment. She thought asking for forgiveness would be enough, that a bouquet of flowers and tears in her eyes would erase the years of abandonment. But Maria received her too calmly. With controlled coldness, it was a silence that screamed. Anna realized that crying wasn't enough. She had to prove it. She had to rebuild. And, most difficult of all, she had to look at the woman she'd rejected out of shame and face the only person who had ever stopped loving her. After that first visit, Anna began going every Sunday. She sat next to her mother, brought fruit, and read Mary's favorite psalms aloud. He carried photos of himself as a child and desperately tried to rebuild a bridge he had burned down with his own hands. But Maria's gaze remained distant. Polite, yes, but cold. "Why do you keep coming here, Anna?" she asked on a rainy Sunday. "Because I love you, Mom. You love ... now. But true love is being present, and you ... weren't. Now that you've lost everything, you come back." Anna lowered her eyes. She knew her mother was right. In the hallways of the nursing home, Anna began to see what she never wanted to see: other forgotten mothers, abandoned fathers, fragile voices that spoke of children who never called. She saw in these stories a mirror of her own guilt. He started talking to the other elderly people. He brought them homemade sweets. He sat with them in the cafeteria. It was a small gesture, but it made her feel less like a ... monster. One afternoon, a lady with a cane said to him, "You seem like a nice girl." Anna almost cried at that compliment. It was the first time in months that anyone had seen her like that. After weeks of silence, Marcelo agreed to talk to Anna. He went to their house to get some documents and found her in the kitchen, dejected, preparing a simple cake. There was no makeup, no arrogance, just a woman destroyed inside. "I went to see her again. Is she okay?" he asked. Anna nodded. "She's better than me. Even with nothing, she still has dignity. I don't." Marcelo sat down. He looked Anna in the eyes. "I loved you very much, Anna, but I don't know who you are anymore. What you did to your mother shook everything." She didn't try to justify herself. She just said, "I understand, and if I can fix something, even if it's just a little, I'll try until the end." Anna decided something bold: to sell the clinic. There wasn't enough movement anymore. Her name was tarnished. But more than that, she wanted to start from scratch. No longer as Dr. Anna Clara, but as Anna Maria's daughter. "You put everything up for sale." He used part of the proceeds to renovate a small house near the nursing home, and the rest, he handed over to his mother, to the nursing home administration. He asked them to use the money to improve the meals, the mattresses, and to create a library on site. When Maria found out, she didn't react with euphoria. She just said, "That doesn't erase what happened, but it's a start." On a gray afternoon, Anna went to visit Maria as usual. He carried a small portable radio, as his mother enjoyed listening to classical music. But when he entered the room, he found her lying down, breathing heavily. She called the nurses. Her blood pressure was low. Her breathing was labored. Maria had been diagnosed with heart failure weeks earlier, but they hadn't told Anna at the elderly woman's own request. "I don't want her to come out of pity. If it is to come, let it come for love." That night, Maria was admitted, and for the first time, Anna slept sitting up in a hard hospital chair, holding the hand of the mother who had once pretended to be dead. "Mom, ... forgive me for everything. Let me take care of you now." Maria opened her eyes. She smiled, and answered in an almost whispered voice, "I always knew you would come back. I just didn't know if I would return as a daughter or as a regretful one," Anna cried. She cried like a child. She cried for every missed Christmas, every missed call, every ignored birthday. I'm your daughter, truly now, forever. Maria passed away that same morning. There were no screams, no chaos, just a deep silence. And the peace of someone who had fulfilled their mission in this world. Anna held her hand at the final moment, and as she watched her leave, he felt a pain tearing through him, but also relief. Maria left knowing that her daughter had returned. Few people attended the wake. Only the nursing home staff, two elderly people who had befriended Maria, Marcelo, and Anna. There were no lavish flower crowns, no emotional speeches, but there was truth. Anna stood beside the coffin until the end. And for the first time, she spoke firmly. My mother died. But, in truth, I was the one who was reborn. After her mother's death, Anna began volunteering at the nursing home. She taught reading lessons, helped with basic tasks, and cared for the forgotten women's nails and hair. He never wanted to go back to dentistry. He said he now treated a different type of pain. I treat wounds that don't bleed, but that hurt more than any cavity. Anna knew she could never erase the past. But she chose to honor her mother's memory with actions. He didn't ask the world for forgiveness. He asked the woman who gave him everything for forgiveness. And when Maria left, she left something more valuable than any inheritance, the chance to start over. The woman who had once killed her mother for the world now resurrected her every day in simple gestures, in acts of love. Because true karma, it's living with what you've done. But it's also about having the courage to change who you are. Maria was buried. And with her, Anna felt that part of herself had also been buried. The woman who lived by her appearance, who built an image of success based on the denial of her own origins, that woman no longer existed. Anna was left, simple, fragile, human, and now alone in the world. She needed to discover who she was without the shadow of shame, without the judging eyes of the elite, without the pedestal of doctor, and without the silent presence of her mother, who had previously been ignored and was now missed like air after the wake. Anna returned to the small house near the nursing home. She spent her mornings cleaning, organizing drawers with a mania for perfection, as if tidying up the space could give meaning to her new life. In the afternoons, she volunteered at the nursing home. She helped the staff, read to the elderly, and bathed frail women who reminded her of her mother. There, she found a new purpose, not of status, but of service, not of pride, but of repair. If I cannot change the past, may I at least serve in the present? Maybe forgiveness lives there, in every small gesture I make without expecting anything in return. In the room, Anna kept only one photo, Mary holding a little Anna in her arms. At the door of the old humble house where they lived, in the image, there was tiredness on the mother's face, but there was also brightness. There was love, pride, strength. Anna started talking to that photo every day. Mom, today, lady named Teresa thanked me for brushing her teeth. She said she felt like she was human again. Would you feel proud? She didn't need the answer. You knew. Marcelo went to visit Anna a few months after Maria's death. They had coffee in the backyard, sitting on antique chairs, under the shade of a jaboticaba tree. You've changed, Anna. I had to lose everything to discover who I was. Sometimes rock bottom is the only place you can find ground. Marcelo smiled, but it was a sad smile. I'm rooting for you, but I've changed too, and I think our time has passed. She nodded, her eyes welling up. I don't expect you to stay anymore. I just hope you remember me as someone who tried to fix what he broke. He stood up, kissed her forehead, and left. No anger, no promise, no return. Some people still judged her. It's the woman who denied her mother. Now you want to play nice. If she were my daughter, I wouldn't even have taken her back. Anna listened, but she didn't react. She no longer lived to be accepted. He lived to honor a memory, and that was stronger than any opinion. At the nursing home, a woman named Donna Evon with advanced Alzheimer's began to confuse Anna with her daughter, who never appeared again. You're back, my girl. I knew you would come back. Anna responded affectionately, I'm back, Mom, and I'm not leaving here anymore. This lady started calling her my daughter of the heart. And as sad as it was, Anna felt that in that mistake, there was truth. She began to take care of Donna Ivone as she would take care of Maria. She washed her clothes, brought her sweets that reminded her of her childhood, and styled her hair in braids. Over time, Anna created a small project, Children by Soul Adoption, a program in which young volunteers began to visit elderly people in the nursing home regularly, creating emotional bonds even without biological ties. The initiative gained momentum. Local news reports began reporting on the project, and ironically, Anna appeared in the newspapers again, but now, for something real, something good. The former dentist who was rejected for denying her own mother has now created the project that brings together the elderly and volunteers in the city. Anna did not hide from the past. She told the truth in every lecture, in every interview, in every conversation circle. I was an ungrateful daughter, and I pay that price every day. But I discovered that love has no expiration date, and that regret can turn into a mission. One day, while organizing objects in the nursing home, Anna received a box from the former administrator. Inside was the Maria's diary, pages written in simple handwriting, recounting the days in the asylum, the loneliness, the dreams, and most importantly, the hope that Anna would one day return. Today is her birthday. I sent her a letter, but I don't think she'll respond. Still, I made a small cake with the other ladies. I can't let the day go by without celebrating. She doesn't know it, but I watch the news. I see her success. It hurts me not to be by her side, but it comforts me to know she's alive. If she comes back, I won't charge anything. I'll just look her in the eyes and ask if she still remembers me. That's all. Anna read the entire diary while crying. It was as if she heard her mother talking to her again. Yes, I remember, Mom. And I will never forget you. In the last chapter of the diary, Maria left a letter, clearly written in the last few days. Daughter, if you ever read this, it's because you're back. And if he came back, it's because he loved me. Don't hold guilt, Viva, live with truth. And if you can, take care of others, like I took care of you. The world needs love, and you still have a lot to give. Anna framed the letter and hung it at the entrance to the nursing home. Everyone read upon arrival, and everyone cried. Years later, Anna grew old. She could no longer visit the nursing home every day, but she was respected as the daughter who returned. Young men asked for advice. Women asked how to forgive. Ungrateful children, touched by history, reconnected with their parents. Anna became a symbol, not of perfection, but of redemption. And at the end of her life, when she was the one who needed care, she was taken to the same nursing home where it all began. And there, sitting on the porch, with white hair, she held a photo of Maria and said, "Thank you, Mom, you taught me what love is." And it gave me time to correct a lifelong mistake. Karma was cruel, but it was also fair, because it gave Anna the chance to live with the pain and transform it into love. She didn't have a classic happy ending, but there was peace. And that, after all, was more than enough. After Anna's death, the asylum was never the same. The walls, once gray and silent, now breathed life. The project Children by Soul Adoption, created by her in the last years of her life, became a national institution, present in more than 50 cities. What began as a simple idea connecting volunteers with abandoned elderly people has become an emotional revolution. It wasn't just charity. Era mutual healing, young people who had lost grandparents or who wanted to make amends for past mistakes, found in the elderly the chance to experience a new bond. And the elderly, accustomed to abandonment, began to smile again, to tell stories, to feel that still belonged to this world. In the asylum where it all began, a room was created called Anna Maria Space. There volunteers were trained. There were photos of Anna's life, her mother Maria's diary on display, and a reproduction of the final letter framed in glass with dried flowers around it. On one wall it read, "What do you do with the pain you inherited? Does it turn into shadow or into light?" People traveled from other states to visit the space. Teachers took groups of teenagers to hear the story. TV channels made documentaries, and a publisher released the book The Daughter Who Returned, based on his life. Letters arrived every day from people who had read or seen Anna's story. After learning about his journey, I spoke to my father again after 12 years. Rodrigo, 27 years old, Sao Paulo. I always blamed my mother for everything. After the project, I volunteered at a nursing home and realized how wrong I was. Luciana, 35 years old, Salvador. I thought I didn't deserve forgiveness until I met Anna. Claudio, 51 years old, Rio de Janeiro. Her pain had multiplied, but not as suffering. It multiplied as consciousness, as healing. One of the volunteer psychologists, Dr. Elias Monteiro, began using Anna's story as a model therapeutic case. When patients say they have no way out, I tell her story, because it's not just about falling, but about returning. Many parents abandoned by their children have found the strength to forgive. And many ungrateful children found the strength to ask for forgiveness. Karma, in this case, it was not punishment, it was a mirror. It was class. It was the way Dona Ivone, the lady with Alzheimer's who mistook Anna for her daughter, lived to be 97 years old. In the last years of her life, everyone in the nursing home called her Mammy Ivone. Anna treated her like a mother until the end. And on the day of the burial, a plaque was placed on his grave with the words, "Here lies a woman, forgotten by blood, but remembered by love." Anna was buried next to her, not for lack of relatives, but by choice, because sometimes facile to carry deeper than those of the flesh. 5 years after her death, Anna's story was adapted for the cinema. The film was called When I Came Back and was nominated for the Best National Film Award. The main actress gained prominence for one scene in particular, when Anna, kneeling beside her mother's coffin, whispers, "You died thinking I didn't love you, but every step I took after you left was for you." In the cinemas, the audience cried, and, at the end, a sentence appeared on the screen, inspired by a true story, because love, even late, is still love. Inspired by Anna's example, new types of volunteering began to emerge. Young people leaving rehabilitation began visiting nursing homes. Adolescents in socio-educational measures became caregivers. People who made mistakes and wanted to make amends found a second chance in these homes. Everywhere, Anna's motto could be read, "I don't want pity, I want to serve," because serving is loving in action. A year before her death, Anna gave an interview to a local channel. In it, the reporter asked, "Do you forgive yourself?" She looked at the camera and replied with tears in her eyes, "Not completely, but today, I understand that forgiveness is not forgetting. It's deciding that pain will not define me, and do good every day in response to the pain I caused." The interview went viral, and to this day it circulates on social media with the hashtag #ComingBackIsPossible. A journalist once asked one of the project's young volunteers if she knew Anna. The girl replied, "Not personally, but, in a way, I am her daughter, because her love reached me even after she left." And this was perhaps Anna's greatest victory. Having left descendants affect, built not by blood, but by choice. Anna's story began with pain, lies, and abandonment, and it ended with service, truth, and acceptance. Karma was not avoided, it was lived, but it was also redefined because Anna didn't try to escape the consequences. She stared at them, and by facing them, he changed not only his own life but that of thousands today. At the entrance to the central building of the Children by Soul Adoption Project, there is a simple statue. A woman sits, her face serene, holding the hand of an elderly lady. On the base, it is engraved, "She wasn't perfect, but it was human, and he chose to love, even after the mistake." And so, Anna was not remembered for having made a mistake, but for coming back, for having faced karma, and transformed the pain into a legacy. More than 15 years have passed since Anna left. The project she founded, Children by Soul Adoption, it was no longer just a support network. It was a movement, present in schools, universities, community centers, prisons, and even multinational corporations. The simple idea of emotionally adopting someone in need of affection has become a social model. Anna had become a symbol not of perfection, but of possible transformation. And it was exactly this symbol that changed the life of Julia, a 16-year-old teenager. Julia lived with her alcoholic father and an apathetic mother who rarely spoke. She grew up believing that affection was luxury, something out of a soap opera, like a happy family in a margarine commercial. It was during a literature class at the neighborhood public school that she heard Anna's name for the first time. The teacher showed a documentary with the full story. When she saw her mother dead in the coffin, She pretended she didn't care, but remorse ate away at her until she became a different person. Julia didn't blink. She felt something strange inside her chest, as if this woman she had never met was speaking directly to her. You can still change, Julia. The pain you feel can become a bridge, not a prison. Driven by something she couldn't explain, Julia sought out the project's core in her city. She was received by a volunteer named D. Zulid, 72 years old. Did you come alone, girl? I came because I want to feel what it's like to be the daughter of someone who wants to listen to me, Zulid smiled. So you already understood what Anna taught. Over the next few weeks, Julia began visiting the nursing home twice a week. He would sit with D. Zulid for hours, listening to stories, drinking tea, laughing and crying without shame. There, for the first time, she felt belonging. Over time, Julia gained the courage to tell her mother about the project. I met a lady who treats me as if I were hers. And what am I to you? The mother replied coldly. Julia swallowed her tears. You are my mother, but you don't know what to do with it. Her mother stared at her in silence. She didn't answer. But days later, he showed up at the nursing home unannounced. Zulid was there. Are you the girl's mother? Drunk. So now I understand where she got her fear from, but also her strength. They sat and talked. For the first time, two injured women recognized that there was still time to heal. Julia's story spread throughout the city. She was invited to give testimonials at project events. She talked about the anger she carried, about her emotionally absent mother, and about how Zulid taught her not to return with hate what she received as absence. Anna died before seeing everything she caused, but she reached me anyway. The audience gave a standing ovation. And it was then that the National Board invited her to be one of Vayalf Ambassadors of the movement. At just 17 years old, Julia began visiting other cities to spread the message. With the internet, the project went viral among young people. They created a series of videos on TikTok called Letters That Were Never Read, where grandchildren read fictional letters to grandparents they never met or who were abandoned. With each new video, thousands of comments appeared. I will write to my mother, even if she never reads it. Forgiving is freeing ourselves, not just the other person. I hated my mother, but now I understand that she was also the daughter of someone broken. Anna's story fed a generation that refused to perpetuate the chain of abandonment. At one of Julia's lectures in São Paulo, a woman with gray hair but vivid eyes approached at the end of the presentation. You spoke about Anna as if you knew her? I know her, replied Julia Venn, though I have never touched her. The woman took a deep breath. I was her colleague at the nursing home. Serious. Yes. I saw what she did with her own mistakes, and I tell you, she died in peace because she finally lived with purpose. Julia couldn't hold back her tears, so she really existed, right? And it continues to exist. In every girl who, like you, chooses good despite the pain. Over time, Julia began to write a book. I wanted to gather stories of young people transformed by the project. In the preface, he wrote, I am not Anna's daughter by blood, but I am a daughter by impact, because she taught me that the past can even explain who we are, but only love can decide who we will become. The book was published at the age of 20 and became a bestseller. At the launch, a 12-year-old boy approached her. Do you think someone like me can change? If Anna changed, you can too. She handed over a copy with a simple dedication. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to start. 10 years after Anna's death, a second statue was built, this time in front of the Ministry of Citizenship in Brasilia. She didn't just portray Anna. They were three figures holding hands, an elderly lady, a young teenager, a child at the base. It was written, whoever breaks the cycle, starts a new tree. Anna's karma did not end with her death. He turned into seeds planted in unknown hearts. And these seeds bore fruits of healing, affection, and new beginnings. Because the true legacy is not in what we leave behind, but in what continues to grow after we are gone. Years later, an unexpected visit, it's already passed over 30 years. Anne was buried in a simple cemetery on a cloudy day with more strangers than relatives around her. The tombstone, once solitary, is now surrounded by flowers. Messages and letters left by people who call themselves soul children and grandchildren. But on that cloudy afternoon, A familiar figure appears for the first time in decades, Maria. She's aged. Time has not been kind. Her gaze is lost. Her expression is wary. I don't know if you can hear me, Mom. Maybe you never really listened to me, but I never wanted to listen to you either. I ran away from pain thinking it was freedom. She kneels before the grave. There's no one around, just the sound of the wind and the sound of a branch falling in the distance. You raised me alone, and I erased you from my life like a stain, she cries. But it's not performative crying. It's the crying after repentance, naked, irreversible. I lied that you had died. When it was I who was dead inside, Maria spent the last few years living outside the country. She married an American executive, had children, and lived the comfort she always wanted. But in recent times, life has taken a turn for the worse. Her husband left her for a younger woman. Her teenage children can't stand her. She is alone, surrounded by possessions, but devoid of affection. One day, by accident, he saw a video on TikTok of a young woman named Julia talking about a woman named Anna Hobcame, a mother to many, even though she was rejected by her own daughter, Maria. Maria decides to visit the core of the project founded by Anna. There you will find photos of your mother on the walls, testimonies pasted on murals, and a central phrase, "Pain that does not transform, repeats itself." She remains motionless, reading it for long minutes. A volunteer approaches. "Did you know, Mrs. Anna, I am her daughter?" The young woman widens her eyes. "Are you Maria?" The news spreads. Some embrace Maria with emotion. Others just stare at her with judgmental eyes. She feels firsthand what she once imposed on her own mother, the weight of exclusion. Shortly thereafter, an article is published in a major newspaper with the headline, "Daughter who denied her mother's existence visits project created by the woman who raised her alone." The comments are relentless. Now that you're alone, you want recognition. Anna lives, and Maria should at least ask for forgiveness in public. Maria reads everything. She swallows hard. But this time, don't run away. She asks to give a talk on the project. They reluctantly accept. In the packed auditorium, she steps onto the stage and says, "I don't deserve forgiveness. But I discovered, too late, that a mother's love never dies. I run, and yet my mother transformed abandonment into acceptance. I came here not to cleanse my guilt, but to tell you all, love while there is still time. Ask for forgiveness while the person can." Still here, some cry. Others ignore it, but the seed was planted. Over time, Maria asks to collaborate on a new front of the project, letters that were never delivered, where people write messages to parents or children with whom they have cut ties. She writes her letter, "Mother, I lied to the world, but I couldn't lie to time. He showed me that absence screams louder than forced presence. The world recognized you, even when I denied you. Today, I'm just someone trying to rescue what can't be rescued, the unlived love. But if there is still something of you in what I can do, I want future mothers not to go through what you went through." With eternal regret, Maria, the letter goes viral. And for the first time, the public begins to look at Maria with empathy, not forgiveness, but understanding. One day, as she was leaving an interview, Maria was approached by a young woman. "Are you Maria?" She nods, a little afraid. "I'm Julia, and I wanted to tell you that your mother did not die in vain." Maria gets emotional. "Did you know her?" "Never, but she saved me. And if you're here trying to repair, then what she planted was successful." Maria embraces her like someone embracing a reflection of what could have been. "Thank you for keeping the good part of my mother alive. She lives in all of us who choose to love, even with wounds." On the 100th anniversary of Anna's birth, a national event was organized in her honor. Maria, now with completely white hair, goes on stage. "For a few minutes, I was the daughter who ran away, but I was also the woman who returned. The pain I caused will never be forgotten. But today, I see that my mother has become eternal, not for me, but in spite of myself. And that gives me peace." At the end of her speech, she hands the audience a copy of Anna's last letter, found in the project's personal archives. "If one day my daughter returns, tell her that, despite everything, she is still the best part of me, and that all the love we deny finds another way." The audience cries. Anna died without the hug she wanted most. But he experienced a transformation that few have the courage to face. Maria returned too late to be a daughter, but soon enough to prevent others from repeating their mistake. The karma was complete. Abandonment became a legacy. Shame became voice. And the rejected mother became a symbol of unconditional love, the kind of love that transcends blood, time, and even death. Because sometimes forgiveness is not given to those who deserve it, but for Huamides to survive one's own regret.